Hello, firearm enthusiasts. Let's try that again. Hello, fellow firearm enthusiasts. Welcome to my bench. Today we have a very interesting pistol. What we have here is the Alpha Foxtrot Romulus Comp. This is a 4.25-inch slide. Turn over. Hello, my fellow firearm enthusiasts, and welcome to my bench. Today we have a very interesting pistol that we're going to go over. This is the Alpha Foxtrot Romulus 5-inch comp model. Alpha Foxtrot is an interesting company. Their parent company is Dasan out of Korea. However, this is assembled out of Duluth, Georgia from Alpha Foxtrot. This is a 1911 double stack, also known as a 2011 pattern. And let's get into it. The pistol comes with a 20 millimeter MBX magazine. It is a 5-inch full-size pistol with the modular 2011 style grip and frame. It does come in this soft side pistol rug that comes with the standard things that come with pistol nowadays. You've got a star Allen wrench, a Torx wrench, a user's manual, a lock. It's got a soft side cover where the pistol would then be stored on the range. We've also got several slots here to store your magazines. Today, I'm going to do my best to channel Nick Shabazz, somebody who has influenced me an awful lot. And we're going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting pistol. All firearms in my shop have been cleared, but just to make the YouTube happy, there is no bullet in the chamber. There is no magazine in the magwell. This is a cleared firearm. First off, let's do a quick size comparison with other guns so you can kind of see really what the size of this pistol is. This is a Canik MC9L. As you can tell, it is quite a bit larger than the Canik, which has a similar footprint to the Glock 43. Here is a SIG P365 XL. Again, you can see that this is a much larger pistol, not in overall height and length, but also width-wise, it's quite a bit bigger. Here it is against the Shadow 2 Compact, that even though it is a little bit longer on the slide, the grip length is about the same. And since this does have the Shadow 2 ergonomics, you can see that it's about the same width. And lastly, but not least, probably what this is probably going to compare to the most is the Staccato XC. These are very similar pistols. They both have a 4.25-inch slide and barrel with a compensator at the end. Now, this is a screwed on compensator. We'll get into this later, but it is threaded and Loctited on to the barrel. The XC, of course, is milled one piece with the barrel. But as you can see, these pistols are very similar in size and shape and function. So first off, let's talk about the good of this pistol. Pistol itself follows the STI 1911 double stack pattern. It has the modular grip, it has a separate frame, and has a separate slide. This does take standard 2011 magazines. It does come with one MBX 120 millimeter magazine that takes 17 to 18 rounds. It comes with the bag and the small amount of material is inside the bag. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Without the magazine, it weighs 36 ounces, and that is with the full-size EPS optic attach, which is almost 2 ounces. Add the magazine, and it is up to 40.1 ounces. Comparatively, the Staccato XC with an aluminum grip and a TLR1 flashlight is 44 ounces. At 40 ounces, it's not a heavy gun. It's right in the sweet spot. 40 ounces to 50 ounces seems to be the sweet spot for these 2011 style pistols. This does come with a bull barrel. There is no bushing at the tip. The lockup for the barrel happens and is milled into the slide itself. It comes with tritium night sights. These are a Glock pattern sights. It comes with suppressor height, and they do 1/3 co-witness with the optic. The sights are actually pretty nice. They glow really well, and I actually shot a match last night with this pistol at night and was able to see the sights no problem. As mentioned before, it does come with a compensator threaded on to the end of the barrel. The trigger itself is a flat aluminum trigger. It also has some serrations on the front of the trigger so that you can get a good purchase. It does have the traditional beaver tail safety as well as ambi safeties. And the trigger itself is actually fairly crisp. Not a lot of creep. I'm not allowed to say what the trigger weight is on YouTube, but I will post a quick picture of the weight itself. You can make your own assumptions. The reset is very short and very positive. Overall, a very crisp, very well done trigger, much better than I expected at this price point. The slide to frame fit was a nice surprise. There is literally zero wiggle on the front or the rear of this slide. It is gunsmith tight. There is literally nothing that moves on this slide to frame. It does come with an aluminum magwell, and as you can tell here, it has been machined and blended perfectly. There is zero ridge, zero grip sticking out, and makes insertion of magazines very easy. Just go right in. It does come directly milled for an optic, and it is directly milled for an RMSC. Speaking with Alpha Foxtrot, they do plan to come out with an RMR cut of their slide in the future, probably first quarter of next year. And they have some designs for a plate system, but no ETA on the actual plates themselves. The barrel lockup is very tight, and the accuracy at 15 yard zero, essentially the bullets were going into the same hole. The ejection pattern, which I will do some B-roll and you can see the actual shooting at the range, is extremely consistent. The slide stop is a little interesting. It's extended, very easy to not only actuate, but when under firing and reloading, very easy to hit that and close the slide. It's extended into the grip area here. A lot of your traditional safeties, similar to this XC, stop here. Nothing wrong with this version. You just have to break your rip to get to it or use your support hand. This one is very easy to use this hand without having to break your grip whatsoever. The actual grip safety itself is actually tuned very well. It's at about a 50% push, which I really like. That means you're not having to clamp, and if your grip is a little bit loose or maybe hasn't got the best draw, you're still going to be able to depress that, but it still gives you 50%. So it feels safe in the holster. It's not going to accidentally discharge by being accidentally pressed in. But the Beaver Tail grip safety has been tuned fairly well. I did shoot this pistol with MBX magazines, Metgar Prodigy magazines, Atlas magazines, Staccato magazines, and Staccato's brother or sister Checkmate magazines. 100% reliability, zero issues with any magazine, both lockback followers, which this magazine comes with, as well as competition style no lockback followers. 100% reliable with every 1911 double stack 2011 style magazine that I've tried with this pistol. Another bonus is all of the holsters that I have tried this with that I use for either the Staccato XC, Atlas Titan, Springfield Prodigies, 100% compatibility with this pistol. That includes Tier 1 concealed appendix holsters, Red Hill Tactical competition holsters, QVO appendix holster, double alpha max holster, double alpha flex holster, and Everglades race holster. 100% this pistol just worked. What is great about this pistol? There's a couple really, really great things. This comes all frame and slide and parts DLC coated, diamond like carbon. In my opinion, the best finish a pistol can come in. All of the flats have been polished. The actual slide itself has also been tri-topped with these vertical milled serrations texture that helps take away the glare when pointing downrange and maybe you have some sun or light. Overall, it's a great looking pistol. I've got just north of 1,000 rounds on this gun so far with 100% reliability. Not a single failure to eject, not a single failure to feed, not a single light strike, 100% reliability. I've shot 115 Winchester full metal jacket, 124 from several different vendors, both 1050 subsonic up to 1280 plus P and NATO rounds, jacketed hollow points, HSTs, gold dot, 147 gamer loads like Jello shots, 150 grain Federal Syntech, 100% reliability on every bullet that has been shot through this gun. Overall, this is a great looking 1911 double stack. Let's talk about the bad. The trigger itself is a one-piece trigger, meaning that the trigger bow and the trigger shoe are attached with one piece, and the only adjustability you have is the over travel. You cannot adjust the length of pull with this trigger. Not a big deal as long as this fits you just right. It does seem to fit my hand pretty well. However, if your fingers are shorter or longer than mine, you're going to have to go to Red Dirt or Atlas or some other trigger shoe and bow to get your length of pull dialed in. The guide rod is tooled. And I'm going to go ahead and take the slide off the camera. You're not allowed to disassemble things with YouTube. Let me be right back. The guide rod is a tooled guide rod that takes that you requires a Allen key to disassemble. Why this is even worse is that the dust cover portion, this portion of this gun right here, is essentially the 4 1/4 version of the Alpha Foxtrot Romulus double stack that they sell. What they've done is they've included a 4 1/4 threaded barrel that the compensator is then attached to without any additional milling on the slides that I could figure out, which means that this portion of the dust cover is extra long. So the reverse plug that is this long, once you unscrew it, you're able to take the reverse plug, you're able to take this half of the guide rod off. This part of the guide rod then comes out, and then you're able to remove the reverse plug. Whether it's an Atlas or Dawson toolless guide rod or an EGW style or Rock Island Armory style that requires a paper clip, unfortunately, because of the length of the dust cover and the reverse plug needed, you are not able to use any style of toolless guide rod that I have found so far. The fix to that would be to take and mill this dust cover down about a 1/2 inch and then get a reverse plug that fits within that area, which gives you enough room to insert and remove a toolless guide rod once the springs are compressed. But as is, as configured and machined, neither the Atlas or Dawson or EGW or any other toolless guide rod that I have tried is able to be inserted into the gap due to the size of the dust cover and the compensator. Slide serrations are very well looking. However, they're not super bitey. In fact, it looks like when they did the polishing, the slide serrations got a little rounded over. They are functional, but they are not aggressive. I do prefer an aggressive amount of slide serrations so that when I can do my press checks and other um, manipulations of the slide to get it back into battery. However, these are a little bit soft, and I would prefer more aggressive slide cuts. Even though this is a very functional and very well thought out thumb safety from a engaging and releasing perspective, my thumbs on my grip actually, when I'm riding the safety, when shooting this pistol, actually hover and even touch that extended slide catch. What that does is when you have a lockback follower in and it's empty, when it tries to go into lockback, my thumb is over the top. It's not able to lock back. If I put my thumb to the side, which is not how you shoot a 1911 style pistol, it locked back just fine. However, when shooting, so the fix to that would be to either retrain my thumb to stick up while shooting, or to replace this with a more higher angled safety like from Atlas or Wilson Combat. The safety itself, if you can see, is not blended very well. In fact, it catches on this punch right here. And what that does, in addition to this beaver tail right here, is it creates a hot spot right here on your hand. A little blending at the factory would have fixed that. However, it is quite annoying when shooting to have that actually hitting your thumb. The grip texture, the front and back serrations for a polymer grip are done really well. In fact, you can already see some of my skin being left behind as I grip the pistol over time. The side serrations, though I didn't have a problem shooting this either in a match or at the range, it is fairly smooth. As you grip the pistol and really get your master grip, it does plant okay. However, it's 60 degrees during the afternoon here in Arizona. If I was sweaty or had any other liquid on my hands, or it was dirty or dusty, this would definitely slip a little bit. You could stipple this, you could replace this with another grip, but I wish that it came from the factory with a more aggressive grip. The undercut is actually really well done. It's got a double undercut, so you can really get high up and really help plant that grip when you when you grip the pistol. However, if you can see here, the edge of this mag catch is really bordered and fairly sharp next to the polymer. In fact, when you're actually using the pistol and either using your support hand or your primary hand to release the magazine, it's actually digging in. And as you can see here, this sharp corner is digging into your finger. There's no gap between the edge of the metal and the polymer, and it really does hurt when using the mag release and just when gripping the thing to shoot pretty well, it does create another hot spot. The barrel has a porthole right here. It's supposedly a safety indicator. If you were really looking down, maybe you could see some brass in there to say, hey, the gun is loaded. However, what it really just does is spit gas up and covers your optic pretty quick. Not sure why firearm manufacturers do this at all. In my opinion, this is actually additional machining. It would save time and money to not put that porthole in there, but it does have one, and be aware it is going to smoke your optic. The gun isn't totally oversprung. I think it's got an 11-pound spring. It could probably do with a 10 or a 9-pound spring based on the load that you're shooting for what I plan to shoot this with, which is probably a subsonic 124 grain or more competition style. I will probably drop this down to a 10-pound or 9-pound spring. It's just a little oversprung. Again, I had zero reliability issues. It just feels a little bit tight. The compensator has three holes, one, two, three, but no expansion chamber. They're just drilled holes into the compensator. Now, the threading does not go into, I'm sorry, the rifling does stop where the threads start, where this compensator is attached to the barrel. So it's not messing up any bullets as they exit the pistol. However, with these three ports and no expansion chamber, I think you're only getting about a 10% decrease in any type of recoil reduction. There's just not enough gas coming out of these. Now you'll see in some video that the recoil is very predictable and very controllable. And this does, even with the factory trigger and the factory configuration, 15 splits in a bill drill are absolutely possible. And you'll see that in the film. However, what what's different about the XC is you can see that the not only is this a much larger chunk port on this barrel, but it also has a cavity milled inside of it called an expansion chamber. So as the gases are exiting the barrel, they bunch up and then explode upwards, again helping the muzzle kick down. This one does not. All of the parts internally are MIM, metal injected molding. Is that bad? Well, honestly, the hardness of the part and the machining of the part is really what is the definition of a quality pistol part. There are lots of guns out there, SIG, Glock, lots of guns that use MIM parts. However, the preference is to have a good tool steel that have been machined properly for better wear, better reliability, and long-term wear of the part. They are MIM, and at this price point, that's expected. However, TSOS has a couple of pistols now, 1911 double stack style, that they're no longer doing MIM parts. I'm not sure why Alpha Foxtrots at this price point, which I cannot say on YouTube, but you can Google it, would include MIM parts. The right side safety, when activated, is loose. As you can see, it wiggles pretty good. Clearly, there's not a good fit. At some point, it's going to eject itself out. That's just a quality control issue. The safeties themselves, other than the blending issue here, and you can even see when it's been put in safety, it's hitting this corner here, similar to this side. Again, not blended, so that when you're riding the gun under safe, again, you're getting a hot spot. But the top parts are actually fairly well blended. No sharp, no nothing here. This is fairly well blended. However, this is very loose. It's going to eject itself at some point. That's a quality issue that could have been stopped at the factory. It does come milled from the factory with an optic cut. And as you can tell, the optic, which this is a full-size EPS from HoloSun, sits very low. And the co-witnessing sights and how low the optic means that the difference between the dot and your actual bore axis of the pistol are very close. You're talking maybe half an inch. Very, very nice. The issue is it only comes with RMSC. Now, again, this is a full-size pistol. Unlike something like the Canic or a SIG, where you're looking at a thin pistol, a carry pistol, where the thin optic makes sense, this full-size pistol, the only optics that you have available to you that are larger than the K-cut style optic, which would also be the Romeo series or the 407 or 507K or the EPS carry, is the EPS full size. And aesthetically, some people may not like the overhang of the optic on the slide. And another optic called the RMS-X, which is a huge optic that does accept the RMSC footprint. However, it's aesthetically different, and up until not too long ago, you could only get it with polymer lenses. They do have a glass lens available now. It is a huge optic, but it's the only choice you have if you want something bigger than the EPS carry. And if you do want the EPS carry, like I said, you are going to have overhangs, and aesthetically, some people may not like that. Again, talking to Alpha Foxtrot, they did say they'd have a RMR slide version soon, but no ETA when they're going to have plates that they're going to make for this pistol. Now, if you wanted to get an RMSC to RMR or RMSC to Delta Point Pro plate here, unfortunately, the commercially available ones are not thick enough to get past the actual slide cut. This is so deep that any commercial available RMSC to RMR plate conversion, which then pops your optic up higher, is not going to fit into this deep of a slide cut. The last thing I'll mention for that's bad is this, even though it is a very well done co-optic, almost a silencer height rear sight, angled tritium front sight with the Glock pattern, as you can see, that rear sight obscures the optic a lot because of how low the optic is. Is that a huge deal? No. Under dry fire, getting the right index, being able to see the dot and look at your target so far hasn't impacted my shooting. However, I could see that being a problem for some people if maybe they're used to not seeing such a large sight obscuring the window of their dot. Let's talk about the ugly. Let me go ahead and take the slide off again off camera. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take off the dust cover so you can see something really quick. So the way that a 1911 Browning tilt barrel action works is that in the slide, your slide release pin actually connects through this barrel link. And the barrel link is what allows under battery the barrel to go into lockup and out of lockup as the barrel reciprocates. So the the clocking or the timing, the fit of this pin to this barrel link to this hole And these lugs, where the bottom of this barrel here locks up to the frame here, and then these barrel lugs here that lock up into the frame here, that geometry is very important. What Alpha Foxtrot did not do, and I don't know why, is they did not mill any relief in the bottom of this barrel link locking lug here. So when I put the barrel link, the pin in here, it actually gets stuck. It will not go any farther down. Now, what's going to happen over time, and you can start to see this already, is this barrel link pin is going to slam into this part of the pistol. Now, this gun, the way that this lockup works is this lug here should be locking up into down here. However, it's actually banging against this under battery. And as you can see, it's actually, I can't turn this right now. It's galling together. It's locking up. Why it's not been milled. Now this part here, from here to here does slink about right here's okay. But as you get closer to that, it actually locks up and actually starts to gall. Why that wasn't done here, I don't know. But that is something that is going to beat up this thing. Most likely, I could send this in for warranty. We'll talk at the end of this of what my plans are for this pistol, but that seems to be a serious engineering mistake. The other thing that's interesting is I love the DLC. The polished DLC is absolutely gorgeous. Now, what you're going to see here as I move this barrel link aside, you go from a DLC covered barrel link to seeing the natural stainless steel, meaning they actually assembled the barrel with the link and then DLC'd the entire part. That just seems lazy and a shortcut. And maybe it's a sign of things to come of other shortcuts that were taken on this pistol. But why you would DLC with those tight tolerances, why you would DLC a part completely assembled is beyond me. What you should be doing is removing the barrel link pin, removing the barrel link, sandblasting and polishing all parts, and DLC coating them separately, reassembling when you're done. Why that was done, I don't know, but it shows a lack of quality or lack of or taking shortcuts at the factory. We talked about the safety being loose inside. As you can see, it wiggles pretty well. It's going to end up, as you see, it actually comes out from the frame a little bit. You can see as I pull just barely, it's already kind of coming this way off the frame. I can take that out, a couple taps with a hammer. Being a MIM part, it might not be at the proper hardness. I might tighten it. It might loosen up over time. I'm not sure, but this is a quality control issue. And then last but not least, the polished slides are absolutely beautiful. However, any place that's not polished on the flats, you can clearly see machining marks. You can see a square rectangle around where it says Romulus. So once they actually did the machining for the Romulus part, they did not go back and clean up by sandblasting or by any type of bead or any type of polishing inside here. Similarly, on this side, the Alpha Foxtrot area, you can see some pretty big machine marks here. Is that functionally an issue? Absolutely not. But if you're going to take the time, and one of the selling points of this pistol is the flats are all polished DLC coated. Why not, where you're looking for these words Romulus, actually make sure that that metal is polished and flat as well, even if it was a sandblasted or a satin finish, so you don't see all these machine marks. Hopefully that's coming across on the camera. Just seems a little bit lazy. Final conclusion. Who is this gun for? Honestly, this is a great range toy. It shoots very well. It looks great and would be a good barbecue gun, something you'd want to show your friends. Somebody might see this and want to know more about it. Maybe somebody who hasn't shot a pistol before. This would be a great first time pistol. It is a nice, balanced, easy to grip pistol. The recoil felt is very soft. This is a nice shooting pistol, so definitely a range toy. I'm actually going to use this as a IDPA gun. IDPA is the type of competition that allows compensators such as this or the XC without being in some sort of crazy open category. And I think that if you're trying to get into the IDPA world and you want to shoot carry optics with a compensator, you can absolutely shoot, which is the meta today, which is the Staccato XC. But the Staccato XC is 3 times the price of this. And so for an entry level IDPA gun, I think this would be a great starter gun for somebody who wants to shoot IDPA. It already makes the weight of 40 ounces with a magazine and an optic. If you wanted to add a TLR1 flashlight, that would absolutely get it to closer to 43, 44 ounces, which is the max for carry optics. And I've already put this pistol in the IDPA box and it fits great. The this rear iron sight, the compensator, everything fits in the box. This magwell fits, the safety fits. This pistol is ready to go for IDPA. Similarly, you could shoot this as a fun gun in USPSA or Steel Challenge. However, with the compensator, it's going to force you to be put into the open category. Now, you don't have to be competitive to have fun. If you don't want to compete against other open guns and just want to shoot, this would be a great gun to shoot in any competition. However, if you do want to be competitive at some point, this really isn't the gun you want to be competing with other open race guns. This gun is fairly new to the market. I think this came out 6 weeks ago. I think Alpha Foxtrot had a previous gun called the S15, which is a smaller, compact version, 1911 style gun. However, it takes Glock magazines. I have had zero issues with this gun in 1,000 rounds. However, I don't think it's been on the market, and this is a sample of one. I'm not sure I would recommend this new version, this new model as a duty weapon. It could flex into home defense, but again, anything that you're going to stake your life on, I'm just not sure there's enough history behind this pistol yet that would give me a vote of confidence that this is the right gun for a life defensive situation. I think if you're into LARPing and looking tactical, again, this is a cool looking pistol. Absolutely put this on your hip, LARP up, get all your tactical gear on, fling this on your hip. It's going to look great. My future plans for this pistol are interesting. I do plan to keep this pistol. In 1,000 rounds of zero issues, 15.15 second splits, accurate bill drills, 3 hole, single hole target holes when zeroing this pistol. It's a fun gun to shoot, so I do plan to keep it. I will definitely be replacing the internal MIM parts with either an Extreme Engineering or EGW ignition kit. I also plan to even with those kits, I'll do a complete match trigger job, get it just under 2 pounds. Because this is going to flex into my IDPA rotation, I will put a weapon mounted light on here. I have way too many holsters that support the TLR1 from Streamlight. Um, However, whether it's a TLR1 or a Surefire 300 or a Mod Light, um, a little bit of extra weight at the front for competition and holster compatibility is a good thing. I will take the weapon back to the range with some different recoil springs and tune the recoil response. This, I think, came with a 17-pound mainspring. I typically like to run a 19-pound mainspring. When the slide is reciprocating, a lighter spring here softens the recoil, and when it comes back into battery, it doesn't bounce or go past the point of zero with a lighter spring here. And when you go light here, heavier here, as the slide reciprocates and bends the hammer back, it absorbs some of that recoil. So I typically run a 19-pound recoil here, probably a 10 or a 9-pound recoil spring here, but I will take that with my ammo and actually tune it and be able to decide what I like after I've got the internals replaced. If I'm feeling super brave and want to spend more time on this pistol, I will machine down this dust cover. I will get a smaller reverse plug that will fit into this system and machine 3/8 to half an inch off so that I can replace this silly tooled guide rod with a toolless guide rod. My preference would be a DLC coated Atlas guide rod. However, I'm happy to use just a paperclip version. However, it's not going to work until I do the machining. For now, it'll stay tooled. But if I do plan to keep this pistol long term, I may do the machine work myself. Not sure what to do with this extended slide stop yet. I definitely am going to be replacing the safeties with either a shielded safety from Atlas, they make an IDPA version, or a Wilson Combat Bulletproof. Both of them have a better up angle so that when the safety is disengaged, it's pointing more like this than this. That when you're riding the safety under battery, my thumb will not be hitting this and causing it not to lock open. And IDPA is very important, and home defense. If you do that, it's important to have a gun that will lock open when the magazine is empty. So I'm gonna keep this. Believe it or not, I didn't find any mem parts on this safety. So this is actually a machined piece of tool steel. The rest of the parts internally are mem, but it's a pretty, and I do like the overall fit and feel of it. So I might be keeping the safety. We'll see. Really depends on how the safety works up here. I'm hoping that with the Atlas or the Wilson Combat style safety that I won't have to blend here. Hopefully that this beaver tail is not cut so high up that a replacement safety is going to also bleed past this, causing me to blend it. If it does, I will blend it and then resend the frame out to be recoded in DLC. So that is my review of the Alpha Foxtrot Romulus compensated 5-inch model. I do like this gun a lot. I don't know why the shortcuts were taken. I don't know why the DLC was not coded as separate parts. I don't know why the compensator is not better milled with an expansion chamber. I don't know why they shortcutted the milling and left some machine marks that are pretty prevalent. I don't know why it's only RMSC. In today's modern world, with giant glass like the Holosun Comp, that is an RMR cut, or if you want the Trijicon SRO or the new RMR HD, or plenty of other optics out there that have the RMR pattern, not releasing a pistol without an armor option just seems short-sighted to me. But the polished DLC is beautiful. The recoil response out of the box isn't bad and is very controllable. The gun is very accurate. Splits the trigger, even with mem parts, has no creep, very crisp, and as you'll see in the picture, not a bad duty grade pistol as far as the trigger response. I'm not saying I recommend this for duty use, but this is out of the box a very crisp duty style trigger. I like this pistol. I am going to keep this pistol, and I appreciate your time and being with me here at the shop tonight. And I hope to spend more time with you and all the other firearm enthusiasts. Have a great day.